Now look, I like Invincible, but I personally haven't fully read the comics. I know, but my cousin has. See?
Silence from you!
Anyways, Invincible Versus drops on the 30th of this month, and I'm pretty hyped for the game, but not the roster itself. So today, let's predict 20 DLC characters that would be getting into the game other than the two that are revealed. The two being the Immortal and Universa. Let's talk about how they would play, and we're not going lore-wise on how the characters would actually be playing in the game, or even if they would appear at all. Alright, again, let's get into this, starting with... Shrinking Ray is an obvious character and needs to be mentioned. Wait, you don't know this Shrinking Ray? Oh yeah, Ray was bent in the show. Anyways, a shrinking and resize mechanic as a fighting capability would be super cool. She could play like a rushdown, ramming into the opponents and having some strong grabs. Some of her attacks could be her shrinking and uppercutting the character, and of course going inside and attacking from within. Anyways, it's pretty obvious. Black Samson would play just like another Viltrumite-like character. Wait, he banished Omnipotus? Oh. Okay, I can work with this. I can see Black Samson being a super strong grappler, being able to, of course, grab the opponents, throw them around, and even taking in damage and dishing it back out. Even with his feat against Omnipotus, there's still not much to talk about. He's just a basic bruiser. I think Darkwing is a perfect fit. Darkwing 2, of course. Many of his abilities could consist of him using gadgets to stun the opponent or throw dark batarangs. One of his unique abilities could be going into the shadows and appearing behind the opponent to combo down on them. I think it's clear we need Shapesmith, and he'd be a strong zoner like Dawson. Some of his attacks, of course, could be stretching for his attacks and then enlarging his body like Miss Marvel. I think it'd be cool if he had one of his supers where he turned into the opponent. Unlike Ginyu in Fighter Z, where he swaps, Shapesmith would fully copy the character and their abilities. I think it's clear that Oliver would be a great fit for Invincible Versus. They could do young Oliver with an older teen Oliver as an alternate costume. His ultimate would of course be running straight through the opponent with his I believe that Big Mildew could be a pretty interesting character, and we need more characters that aren't part of the norm cast of Invincible. He could be a strong grappler, but also being able to throw business baby to do small amounts of tick damage on the opponent. I think it'd be very fun and would add a bit of flair to the actual game. Honestly, I'm pretty surprised that the Mauler twins didn't actually get into the base roster. They could have the main Mauler as the starting character, carrying a machine gun and dealing up close and range damage. But for the second Mauler, he could swap out to the other one, having a separate moveset, using different gadgets and having a set play style. They would swap out just like Vega would in Street Fighter. I think Tether Tyrant and Magmatic are also in the same situation as the Maulers. Even if their superpowers are pretty different, I could see them more as a double character since that's how they've always been perceived throughout the series. First, for Tether Tyrant, he would have his zoning and grapple play, while Magmatic would have his zoning and mix-up play. Doc Seismic could be such a fun character, having some super speedy moves, but also being able to disrupt the opponent from underneath their feet. Surprisingly, I see him playing just like Galleon from Granblue, having some zoning attacks, but also being able to use the elements around him to do some complicated up-close play, while also lifting up the earth beneath him to destroy the opponent. Who better to put Doc Seismic with other than his queen Volcanica? Of course, she uses her lava powers, but also would be able to summon magma mites to attack the opponent. She could be similar to Galleon as well, having rock-based attacks that build up over time and being able to spawn rocks above the opponents, while also having lava powers like Magmatic. Engstrom would be a very fun character, having a mobility mechanic to move around with his portals. Some could bring him backwards, right in front of the opponent, or behind them. For his main attacks, he could do zone play using his drones, controlling them to rush down the opponent while also keeping them far away, using them as his own little, like nanotech bots, controlling them with all his will, and also being able to shoot lasers from some of them. Okay, this is an odd character to pick for the DLC, but hear me out on a Sequids. You could have the main body, and it could be a fully customizable character that you control. You can summon other humans that are controlled by the Sequids to rush down the opponent. You could also shoot other Sequids to rush down the opponent and to attack them. The Sequids would stun the opponent once they lock onto them, and they would control them, possibly having some sort of inverted controls gimmick when in the super. Space Racer would be peak. He could use his jetpack just like Morgan in Marvel vs. Capcom, able to dash backwards and forwards. Then, his bike would be a rushdown ability, getting him to do some close play. For his gun, it would have limited shots, having only 6. Each shot would go straight through the opponent and have no block. However, you cannot reload this gun, and once you've lost all said shots, you can only fight melee with your gun, reducing all of your damage output. Tech Jacket is my favorite character in all of Invincible. Even if I haven't seen most of it or read most of the comics, Tech Jacket just gives off that tough aura. However, I feel like they kind of ruined Zack within the show, turning him into Zoe Thompson. I don't hate Zoe Thompson, I just hate that she's Tech Jacket. I honestly hope that Tech Jacket is Zack when it comes to Invincible Versus. So, what would his moveset be like? Well, he would be able to manipulate his entire suit, making different swords and large cannon blasts. However, I don't want Zoe Thompson out of the game. I think she would be a great alternate with new voice lines and new voice line interactions. I think she would be a very fun character. However, I personally do prefer Zack. Now, this is another odd pick, but I would love the Ragnars to be playable. Of course, they would be another Viltrumite-like character. However, for their unique ability, they'd be having a large jump attack, and when they slam back onto the ground, they would do some heavy AoE damage. Now, I mentioned Omnipotus earlier, and I think it'd be pretty fun if we had him. He's considered a reality warper, just like Bill Cipher or Mr. Macy's Pidlet. So, he could alter the effects of the stage, forcing players to be trapped on the stage and not being able to move fast. He, however, would be able to move very fast, like if the stage itself forced him over to the opponent. He could also have some grappling ability that would be able to heal him and steal the energy from the opponent. Of course I want Dinosaurus. And of course I want him to play just like Warwick. And of course I want him to have a heavy rushdown ability and having some sort of rage meter. There's nothing else I need to say. I think it's pretty obvious that Thrag would be on this list. I mean, he's been the main main villain of Season 4 so far, and he was also the big bad, and he was super hyped up. So I think it's pretty obvious he'd be on the list. I would rather his Air Punch be a chargeable ability instead of one that just automatically happens. I think it'd be fun if it was charged up just like a Smash Bros. Ability, where you could also keep it around. Also, I think his character is funnier. I think they could make him funnier if they had him throw his children at the opponent. Every good fighting game needs a joke character, and so far, Invincible Versus does not have a joke character, unless you count, of course, Rexploder, the entire roster, every single bit of memes that they're pumping into this game. So I thought that the Seance Dog would make a bit of sense since he is from the show, and he's also been heavily promoted within the show, and the game is also being done by the same studio that did the show. I think he would have some nice magic and zone play, and I think it'd be pretty fun as a character on his own. There are low chances of this happening, but I think it's pretty obvious we need this to happen. So I think it is clear Spawn is the perfect pick to finish off this DLC roster, being the most famous Invincible crossover to ever happen. Spawn would have some crazy rushdown play while also using his chains and guns for zone play. He can have an ability with the Spawnometer. If you build up a bunch of his meter, being from attacks, taking immense damage, and doing supers, you're dragged to hell. This changes the map and gives Spawn, Volcanica, and Doc Seismic all buffs. Specifically Volcanica and Doc Seismic because they were also in the depths of hell. However, if you survive with only Spawn on your team and your meter is not used up, he becomes Divine Spawn, gaining significant speed, zoning power, reviving a lot of his health, and gaining some health steal. What do you think? Other than me not reading the comics, I'll read them soon. Let me know in the comments. How do you think that the game will play out, and what do you think about this DLC roster? I'll catch you in the next video with a game concept for a new Yokai Watch fight.